Welcome to the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast. This is episode 25, Top 5 Games to Play on Halloween. My name is Tyler.
Hello, this is Kevin.
This is Tyson.
In this episode, we're going to talk about some of the games that we've been playing lately that are still
Spooky.
horror-themed, a little
Terrifying.
bit. And then we're going to talk about our top 5 games that we think you should play on Halloween.
That is correct. Spooky games.
Spooky games. Terrifying. Horror.
Or just, Halloween-y.
Yeah, Halloweeny.
Dark themed.
Is that the correct pronunciation?
You're supposed to say Halloween.
Who says that?
That's the correct pronunciation.
Okay.
I make fun of it all the time, but that's how some people say it in this household who are fanatical about it.
Oh, okay.
The holiday, not how you say it.
I have learned something new.
It's been a good month of Halloween.
Yeah, everybody's getting into the spirit, the Halloween spirit.
Happy Halloween!
I'm heading out with the family to go to Disneyland.
Nice. I bet they put on quite the Halloween decorations and show.
They do. We went, last time we were in Disneyland, we were there in October. The Haunted Mansion is all decked out Nightmare Before Christmas, which is cool. All the villains are out. So Captain Hook, Ursula, other various villains. It's gonna be great. We're excited.
That would be a fun place to go for a Halloween season. I've gone to some theme parks and things like that, and it's fun when they get in the spirit and they have their own like traditions and things like that you get to experience. Speaking of traditions, though, do you guys have any like specific Halloween traditions that you like to do?
We watch a lot of scary movies.
Mm-hmm.
My wife goes all out with the decorations outside. If you noticed, we have a new giant werewolf.
I did notice that.
Yeah,
That was the new addition this year.
terrifying.
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
I don't have anything specific, like similar to you. We watch Halloween movies and spooky things and do that all leading up. But I was thinking this year that I was going to start something. I've started reading Frankenstein, the
nice.
book by Mary Shelley, and I've started doing that. And I love that book. I've read it before, but I was thinking, it's perfect. Like the length could fit that you read a chapter a night, essentially leading up to Halloween. And then by the end, you finished Frankenstein. I think that book is great. That's kind of, I think, where I'm going to be going for a Halloween tradition personally moving
Nice.
forward.
Nice.
You need to play Abomination with me.
I would love to play Abomination.
So I did Dracula a few years ago, and I loved it. Kevin, what are some of your traditions?
We go trick or treating.
What is
Do you guys know about this tradition? No, we do. So we have Yummy Mummies every year. So Yummy Mummies, you get hot dogs and you wrap them in like a croissant thing.
It's a pig in a blanket.
It's basically a pig in a blanket.
You call it a yummy mummy.
Yummy Mummy, you put and then you put the ketchup on it like blood.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. We usually have a theme to Halloween game night. We try to get something in like that, And the foods, the theme foods. Alicia, my wife, we don't do this every year, but she made like chocolate covered pretzels and then put an almond as the fingernail, and it looks like a creepy witch finger type of thing. So sometimes we do stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Going back to Pigs in a Blanket, when you guys were kids, what was the meat in the Pigs in the Blanket?
A hot dog or like
It was just a hot dog. It's always just been a
It's
hot
always been a hot dog
Yeah,
for you. So
yeah.
for some people, it's been Smokies.
Smoky. That's what the
For me and my house growing up, it was Vienna sausages, which I keep teasing my wife, like, we need to go back and try this. And she's like, those are disgusting. And
The ones you get out of a can.
yeah.
Oh,
where you'll have to like drain the oily liquid.
Yeah. That's terrible.
We used to have those and eat them just straight from the can. Like
That's
as
even
kids.
more terrible.
And like we loved them as kids. And looking back, I feel like that's terrifying.
Wait a minute.
That should be Halloween.
Are you supposed to cook them?
Yeah, you cook them.
No, because
No, they're pre-cooked.
No,
aren't they?
backpacking. We would
It's like Spam.
We would
Yeah.
go backpacking, and we would take Vienna sausages backpacking.
And they were
and
delicious.
Just eat them out of the can. I don't know if I'd go as far as saying they're delicious, but it was food.
Yeah, but I feel like my wife missed out on that the Vienna sausage
Or
version
she got lucky.
of the Pig in the Blankets. All right, this is
It's horrifying regardless.
tangent, yes.
Yeah, it is horrifying.
So one thing you asked about traditions, I thought about this. So for the last several years, we do a fire pit on our driveway. And usually it's with some of our neighbors, but friends come by and we'll stay for an hour or so, and then they'll keep going with their kids or whatever. So we have all kinds of visitors that come by. We put multiple buckets at the end of our driveway.
This is for Halloween, like trick-or-treating.
Yep,
so.
Halloween night, sorry. And we have a fire pit on the driveway. We've got music going. We've got food. Shelly always does queso. One of our friends always does apple cider. Someone always brings a pizza. So we always do this, right? One funny story. Okay. So our friend Aaron, he was dressed up as He-Man. Okay. And Mark from the podcast that we've had on is in our gaming group. He was also there one time, and he was dressed up as the Swedish Chef, which
That's amazing.
He's super tall.
Yeah.
Dude, it was hilarious. So anyway, we're sitting around the fire, and Aaron's in his He-Man outfit or costume, and Mark's in Swedish Chef. And like the fire popped and an ember flew and landed. It flew and landed right on He-Man's lap in like the orange fur. And the Swedish Chef starts trying to put out the fire, and it was, he's just
He started a fire on his...
it didn't actually start, but the Swedish Chef Mark was trying to keep it from
Bork.
Yeah, it was hilarious, and we've laughed about that for years. But that's our tradition. You guys should stop by. You got young kids. Stop by. I'm excited to take Caden out this year, so I think he'll have a fun time. He's got his Bluey costume all ready to go. So
That's perfect.
Yep.
Fun fact about the Swedish Chef. The only actual Swedish word that he says, you know how he has the rubber chicken? He chucks the chicken over his shoulder and yells, "Kyckling!"
Kyckling.
Yeah, that means chicken in Swedish, right? Everything else he says is just gibberish. Bork means nothing. Right?
That's awesome.
So, just so you know.
Yeah. So some fun traditions there, right? What have you guys been playing lately?
So a game I've been playing is called Horrified. So there is a newer version of Horrified that has come out, and it is the American monsters. The original that came out was the Universal monsters, and those are the monsters I think most people are familiar with. Dracula, Frankenstein,
Mummy,
the
Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing, yeah, right. So it's those monsters. That was a fantastic game. I love that one. The one that we played was the American monsters. So the American monsters are, Chupacabra, the different cryptids. Are they called cryptids?
Yes.
Okay. Different cryptids. There's
Bigfoot.
There's the Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
There's, those types of things.
Ozark Howler.
The Ozark Howler.
I've never heard that before.
No, and there's some of them that I hadn't heard of at all. But it's a really fun game. It doesn't add a whole lot of new things from the original, right? It's just basically more of the same thing, which I think is good. I like expansions that do that, or new versions of games that do that for a game that I already like. And that's kind of what this one does. So for those who haven't played, the way this game works is you pick a number of monsters, and the number of monsters you pick is the difficulty of the game. So you can pick 1 or up to 4. We picked 3 monsters. They're set up for those monsters. And then you play the game. So there's a game board in front of you that's a city that these monsters are going through, trying to, get the people that are there. You pick an investigator. Each investigator has a specific ability that's unique to them. And to play the game, you have an investigator phase. So in the investigator phase, you're going to be moving around the board. You're going to be guiding citizens to safe spaces. There's special actions you can do. There's items on the board that you can pick up. There's ways that you defeat these monsters, and every way you defeat the monster is different and unique. Most of the time, you're picking up items and you're delivering them somewhere. The Chupacabra, for example, is he devours animals. So you're going around the board and you're trying to pick up goats, and you're delivering goats to the farm to save these goats. That's how you defeat Chupacabra. Every monster is different, which is one of the cool things about the game, right? And every combination of monsters is going to be different. There's difficulty levels for the monsters. You can do a really hard game and get all the hard monsters and get 4 of them in one game and make it really difficult. So you got the investigator phase. You've got then the monster phase. You flip over a card from the monster stack. There'll be a number at the top that says how many new items you put on the board. You draw those from a bag. There'll be something in the middle that the monster does. And then on the bottom, there are these symbols that correspond to all the monsters, and they will move and attack based on the number and the symbol of the monster. So it'll tell you what's going to move. There's a frenzied monster that changes throughout the game, and if there's that frenzied symbol, it's going to be that monster. So monsters will move. If they come to a space with a citizen or investigator, then you'll roll dice. If you get 1 damage point, you don't get killed, you get injured and moved to the hospital. But this frenzy marker at the top of the board will move. If at any point the frenzy marker gets to the end, you lose immediately. If at any point the monster deck, you cannot draw a card, you lose immediately. But if you're able to defeat all these monsters before one of those 2 things happen, then you end up winning the game. So that's how it works. It's, like I said, it's a fun game. The variability between the monsters is a lot of fun. It's on the lighter side of co-ops, I would say. So it's more a family co-op. But it's one that I really enjoy and I have a lot of fun with.
I think that the thing it has going for it over, like, say, Pandemic or vanilla Pandemic is how you defeat the monsters is different for each monster. Whereas in Pandemic, you're just trying to get the same number of cards, regardless of what color the disease is, right? I like that more than just regular Pandemic. So I think it has a 1-up on Pandemic. And I think it's very comparable.
I was really intrigued by this, mainly because I love the theme and I love the setting and I love the American monsters types of things. I listened to this podcast called Lore from Aaron Mahnke, and he does a fantastic podcast. I would highly recommend it. I've listened to like 175 episodes of it, and it's good. It goes over like the history of different lore across the world to include some American monsters. One of the ones that most memorable episodes I remember is it talked about the Jersey Devil, and like, so when I saw that there's a board game that has the Jersey Devil in it, it was really exciting to me, and I wanted to experience that. So I like the theme, and I like the aesthetic that this Horrified American Monsters has. The art is pretty. What you're seeing on that box cover is really nice, and I'd be more interested in trying this one than the Universal Monsters one.
Yeah, and like Tyler mentioned, it's pretty thematic what you're doing, and it's different for every monster. So, Mothman is moving around the board super fast, but you're setting traps for him. And when he comes to a trap, he stops. You have to defeat him in a trap space. There's a lot of theme, and there's a lot of thought put into this game. I think it's a good one. If you like co-ops, if you like the theme, I think the production is great. It's worth checking out. So that's Horrified, the American Monsters.
So continuing the Horrified horror-y theme going on here, one game that I've been playing a lot of lately, and I've played a lot of for the last couple of years, is a game called Skulls of Sedlec. This is a game designed by Dustin Dobson and published by Button Shy Games. I was first introduced to this game when they originally released it back in 2020. This is part of Button Shy's Wallet series of games. So for those that may not know, Button Shy is a publisher that publishes primarily these 18 card games, and they come in these wallet envelope type of covers. Usually have a lot of depth to them, and a lot of the times they have a lot of good like solo games that come in their line. Scott Alms, known for his Tiny Epic games, has a whole like Simply Solo line in the Button Shy games, and does a lot of really good things. But this Skulls of Sedlec is a game that can be played for 1 to 4 players with just 18 cards, which I find impressive. And it adds this really abstract, interesting puzzle that you have to solve. So essentially, the theme here is that during the 16th century, the Sedlec ossuary was basically where there was the Black Plague and overcrowded graveyards. And so the bone collectors of the time started making art out of human remains. And so they would take the skulls, they would take the bones and create these elaborate kind of artwork pieces that are, think of like the catacombs, right? Like, so you have the catacombs with all these different arrangements of how skulls are laid up. So essentially in this game, what you're doing is you're trying to arrange skulls in a specific pattern so that you can score a certain amount of points. There are different types of skulls in this game. So depending on the expansions you can have different kinds of skulls, but you have peasant skulls, you have priest skulls, you have guards and criminals, and you have lovers, and you have different types of skulls. Every card on it has two different skulls on it. One is a certain type, and usually the other is a different type. So you could have a peasant on top of a lover. And you're trying to arrange these cards in a way that they have the maximum scoring possibilities. So for example, a peasant, the way it scores is anywhere it's placed within its structure, any peasant you have is going to score a single point. But if you are playing with the Royals expansion, the Royals want to be above the peasants. So anytime you stack cards up and on top of them to create your pattern, if there are Royals above peasants, you score extra points for every peasant that is below that Royal. Each of these different types have these different scoring mechanisms for how they play out. And there are a ton of different expansions. I think all of the expansions up to this point. And I think there are like 5 or 6 different expansions, but there's a lot of different variability in here, and you're trying to create the best possible patterns. I love this game because I think it has an incredible solo experience that can be played very simply. Essentially, you are still building the same patterns, and you're digging skulls out of the graveyard is what it's called, which is just your deck. There are 4 piles of your deck, and you're pulling out skulls and then selecting the ones you want and then arranging them in specific ways. And you're trying to achieve a certain score. This game, I like I said, I've been playing this one for years, and I've played a lot of it. Even back when I ran, I actually helped run Button Shy's YouTube channel. I ended up getting to interview Dustin Dobson, the designer of this one, and the amount of thought and thematic tie he puts into this game is surprising and impressive for this 18 card game. I love this game. I think it's a really fun game if you want to play solo, or if you want to play a quick, very light, easy to pull out game for up to 4 players. It's a lot of fun.
I think you do an excellent job of finding those games that are not always part of the mainstream. I would say your collection deviates the most from mainstream more than anybody else in this group, right?
Yeah. I mean, I own a lot of these Button Shy games. Like I said, I've worked with Button Shy as a publisher to a minor extent, and I admire publishers that are smaller and possibly lesser known to like the mainstream of gamers, and I like what they can add. I've even tried to design for Button Shy has a bunch of like design contests. I've designed a bunch of 18 card games for their design contests, and I like the community they create, but I also really like the products they put out.
You're finding the diamonds in the rough.
That's right.
It's good. I like it.
So that was Skulls of Sedlec from Button Shy Games.
So Tyson mentioned Frankenstein earlier on in the episode, and I played a game recently called Abomination, the Heir of Frankenstein. This game is thematic to the T. It is awesome. It is 1819 in Paris, France. It's 20 years after Victor Frankenstein. You're representing someone who's trying to create another monster, basically. It's a worker placement game published by Plaid Hat Games. The designer is Dan Blanchett, who has done games like Vampire the Masquerade. He's got a new one coming out, American Psycho, a killer game. It's got Christian Bale on the cover of that. He's got some darker games coming out or in his design history. It's 12 rounds. You start out just getting fleshy parts and then you make them come alive. There's some push your luck aspect with rolling the shock dice, which can either damage your body that you're building or can bring it to life. You get awarded points as you finish parts of the body, whether it's the torso or the arms, the legs, or the head. There are a bunch of different locations that you can go to get body parts in various stages of decay. Like, let's see, you can go to the morgue. You can go to the public square where somebody was just executed. There's some fresh parts there. You can dig up cadavers from the cemetery.
Can't you do like a dog catcher or something like that?
You can go to the slaughterhouse and buy animal parts, but you lose points for animal parts that you use to complete body parts, which
is fun thematically.
It is, and it's really cool. You can go to the dark alley and get just murder someone, basically, and get very fresh parts. However,
Such a happy theme.
the police get onto you, but then you can bribe them to kind of ignore you so you can keep your murdering ways. But you're trying to retain humanity. You're trying to score points. I don't know. It's a fun game. There is a lot to explore here. I look forward to going back to this game.
The art's kind of pretty gruesome, right?
It is. This is not a game that I would play with younger kids.
Yeah.
The basic structure of the game, there's 12 rounds. I really like this. So you kind of like in Orleans, you draw an event card basically, or you take the next one off the stack. In this one, you draw a card and you resolve the event. Then you take turns placing your meeples in the city. You have the scientist and then like the lab assistant, and they can go to different spaces and also receive different rewards depending on the space. Once everybody's put out all their meeples, then you do the lab phase where you work simultaneously in your labs to construct different body parts, and you collect points during the course of the game while you do that. However, like I said, if you use an animal part, then you lose some victory points when you complete that part. You collect muscles, you collect organs, you collect bones. You can get ice in the game, so it preserves your body parts longer or your resources. Otherwise, they decay over time and you score more points for using fresher body parts, right? So there's this. It's a dark theme. I mean, it's Frankenstein, but they nailed the theme. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun.
Is it bloated at all? Where you're trying to inject theme into the game, and there's mechanics that are just kind of there just for the theme?
I don't think so. I think I maybe need to play it a little bit more, but you can also go and teach in the academy and gain expertise. And I don't know. There's a lot going on.
Cool.
It's not a quick play. I don't know that I would want to play it more than 3-player. Definitely. I don't want to play this at 4-player.
Due to the AP potential?
Yeah, just kind of dragging a little bit, but it's a lot of fun. The quality of the components are really nice. The money is just cardboard, but aside from that, everything else is really nice. And so it's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to getting it back to the table. You can charge Leyden jars that you then use to roll the dice to try and electrocute your body to life. However, you can damage it, which that's thematic, right? Like, That's a hit or miss exercise in futility, trying to bring a body to life with lightning, but you can also damage it. So
it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Very thematic, very excited to go back to this one.
It's one that when you do go back to, I definitely want to play. This is one that I've had on my radar for a long time. Thematically, I don't know that you get more horror themed than this. Like this
Right.
sounds like it is the quintessential Halloween game, almost, as it were. Like,
Yeah, it's perfect. Like I said, it's a little bit darker. Would not play this with younger children. Yep.
Well, kind of switching to a game that you definitely would want to play with children, right? The next game I'm going to talk about is called Yummy Yummy Monster Tummy. This is definitely not Frankenstein name, right?
So we've gone to the whole other side. Of the
we've gone full circle here, full circle. This one is by Lucky Duck Games, and it is designed by Andreas Wild. So I picked this one up at Origins. It looked like it had a fun theme, and it's something I could play with my kids. I broke this out last night and actually played with my 9-year-old. The way this game works is similar to like Chronicles of Crime. It's a QR-based game where you're scanning cards. That's what this game does as well. So there's a bunch of different cards and a few different scenarios that you can play. So the first one is the attic. And on the back of each card, like I said, there's a QR code. And then on the other side, there is a bunch of items that you would find in an attic and a color associated with that item. So underwear is one of these, for example. Apparently, you can find underwear in an attic. Or grandpa's dentures, you can find those in an attic. Or candy or something. I don't know. You're finding these things in an attic, and there's a color associated with that. Also in the attic, there are monsters, and you have to feed those monsters items. So you have an app. You open up the app. You put so I put my iPad in the middle of the table, and there's a picture. There's like a scene of the attic, and a monster jumps up, and his mouth's open. He wants to be fed. So you deal out 8 cards, and then each player will feed the monster one of their cards. So you put the QR code over, and the front-facing camera will scan that code, and then there's an animation that gets done. The monster eats that, and you're trying to match exactly the color of the monster that's on the table. So not all of it, your cards that you have won't always match, but you're trying to get as close as you can. So the monster will eat all those cards, and then it will turn a different color based on the cards that you feed it, based on the combination of those 2 colors. And the closest you get to the right color, you will get stars, and you're trying to get to 100% match if you can. If you get below that first star, then game's over, you lose. If you get above, if you at least get 1 star, you're going to move on. And more monsters will come up, and you get to the end, and then it will calculate all your stars, and you see how good you did in that scenario. So basically, it's a color matching game, right? It's for 6 and up. Super easy. As you get through the scenarios, there'll be specialty cards that you play where you get to draw another card if you match the location. We went to the forest. You find different things in the forest. You encounter different monsters. There's rabbits in the forest that only want to eat vitamins. There's little vitamin symbols on the card, and you have to feed them vitamins. If you give the monsters vitamins, they don't like it, and it's bad. So it's like a super cute, fun, whimsical type of game. My daughter absolutely loved it. She woke up this morning, told my wife, "Hey, when can I play games with Dad again?" Because she had
You just won.
Yeah, she had so much fun playing, which that's what you want in a game like that, right? It completely does what it's supposed to do.
Well, and it sounds like it has a unique use of app integration that I haven't seen before. Like, obviously it takes the Chronicles of Crime kind of app integration to an extent, but that color matching, I've never had, I wouldn't have ever considered doing something like that. And that actually sounds like it could be entertaining and fun to try and optimize using whatever cards you have at your disposal to kind of make that work.
Yeah.
Where did you get this?
It was at the Lucky Duck booth.
Oh, at Origins.
Yeah, at Origins.
Nice.
So I picked up this one.
I didn't know you picked this up.
And then another kids game that is basically Chronicles of Crime, the kids version.
Okay.
And we haven't played that one yet. We'll be playing.
That's the one that I thought that this was when you mentioned that. Oh, it's a Lucky Duck app integrated one with Chronicles of Crime kind of a app integration stuff. So that's what I thought this was. But this sounds like fun. Like it sounds like something my kids would really enjoy too.
Yeah, it's cool. And it took me a while to figure out how to scan the cards because Chronicles of Crime, you're just using the normal camera, right? And it scans it. So I have my iPad up trying to scan these stupid cards. And I'm like, oh, it uses the front facing camera, right? So it was a little bit different. So once we figured that out, it actually was really easy. And
whoever that technician is who is reviewing all of those front-facing camera scans sees your face right there being all distorted because you're trying to get all the camera on. So,
as dark as the art is in Abomination, this is completely whimsical and lighthearted and fun, and it looks like a game that I may eventually add to my collection someday.
Yeah, Caden will be all over this.
I can see
in
that.
a year or two, right? So that is Yummy Yummy Monster Tummy.
The next game that I want to talk about is a game that I've had for a while, but I've only played a few times. It is one, though, that we as a group are familiar with in general. It's Lovecraft Letter, which takes the love letter genre and applies the Lovecraftian theme to it. So this game is designed by Sejai Kanai and published by Alderac Entertainment Group, AEG. It, unlike other versions of Love Letter, this one plays up to 6 players. So it's a larger player count of this one. And part of the reason is that this adds more cards. I think it doubles the amount of cards in the deck that most Love Letters do. So for those who are not familiar with Love Letter, we've talked a little bit about it here on the podcast, so I won't go too in depth. But the basic gist of Love Letter is you are trying to have either stay around the longest or have the highest value card. So essentially, there is a deck of cards, and this deck of cards, in most Love Letters, is about 18 cards, and on it you have values ranging from 0 to 8. And these different values will also have specific powers associated with a value. So a 1 will have a specific ability. Most of the time, the 1 in each version of Love Letter is going to have the ability to predict or guess what other card somebody else has. Everybody is dealt a single card at the start of the game, and then the deck is placed in the center. One card, typically in most versions of Love Letter, is every round you'll take out one card from the deck, and it will be unknown to players what that card is. And then when it's your turn, you draw a card. So at any given time on your turn, you will have 2 cards in your hand, but all other times you will only have 1 card. You will select between the 2 cards in your hand which one to play and which one to hold on to. When you play something, you discard it in front of you, and then you must use the ability that is written on the card. So you're choosing between the 2 abilities in your hand. As that goes around, everybody's going to get the opportunity to make guess, and you're trying to be the last player standing or have the highest value at the end of a round. Depending on the version of Love Letter you're playing, there's a certain amount of wins that you'll get, and once you've achieved that, you end up winning the game. So the way that Lovecraft Letter differs from Love Letter in any variety is that it adds what's called the sanity check to the game. And essentially, like I said, there's more cards in this one. There are 2 types of cards in this. You have a sane version of a card, and you have an insane version of the card. So you double the amount of cards that are there. So if in base Love Letter you have 5 1s, you're going to have potentially more than that in this. It's usually, I think it doubles it, but it may not be exactly double. But you're going to have insane versions of the card, and you're going to have sane versions of the card. If you ever discard an insane version of the card in front of you, for the rest of that round, you are considered insane. When it comes back to your turn, what ends up happening is you have to do a sanity check, meaning for every insane card you have in front of you discarded, you must draw a card from the deck and discard it in front of you. If it is a sane card, you can continue to draw for as many insane cards as you have. If it's an insane card, you immediately go completely insane and die. Like you're out of the round and it boots you out. But those insane cards tend to have more powerful abilities and allow you to do different things, so that it plays slightly different in that maybe you do want to play an insane card because it can do something particularly powerful. And in fact, the highest value insane card, which is Cthulhu, has an auto win condition, not auto win the round, but auto win the game. So there may be reasons why you would want to go insane, but it also has that push your luck mechanic in it that makes it a little bit different than the rest of the game, or the other versions of the game. So Tyler and myself and a few others got to play this a little bit ago and got to play Lovecraft Letter. And the last time we played it, I don't know that it was as interesting or as fun for me as other times I've played it, but I still think I had a lot of fun with this one. The components in this game, the way that it looks,
really nice.
It's phenomenal. Like, it comes with its own card sleeves. It comes with poker chips, and like, it is.
Does it come in a bag?
It does not come in a bag.
It
Nice.
comes in a box.
It does come in a box. And so, like,
which is revolutionary.
It is.
it's the most deluxe version of
any Love Letter
of
game.
Love Letter, yeah. And the art's by Vincent Dutrait, who I love and has done some amazing artwork. So like it's great to look at.
I enjoyed. That was my first play of it. I enjoyed it. I'd like to go back. If I had to base it, this would not be my favorite Love Letter off of the play, because some interesting and different things happened. I felt like there are some card combinations that allow you to win really easily, and that happened multiple rounds.
Yeah,
and it
happened to you mostly, right? Or was it?
No, it was
Mark. It was Mark that ended up winning a lot of those because he had that consistently.
I had multiple rounds where I either didn't get to play a card or only played one card. So I had a rough play. I'd like to go back to it. The production of it is amazing, but it's a fun. I could see how it's different from a lot of the other Love Letter games in its own unique way, with the insanity checks. That I did like.
Yeah, the integration of the push your luck element to a Love Letter was an interesting addition, I think, to the Love Letter genre itself. I like it. I think after that most recent play, I'm not as whereas before I think it could have been my favorite version of Love Letter. I don't know that it is as much that anymore based off of that one, but I'd like to play it some more to be sure.
Sounds fun.
It's definitely better than the Thanos one. So just throw that.
Haven't played the Thanos one.
Neither have I.
But this one sounds interesting. Sounds like it adds some different things that are not in the typical Love Letter game. That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was Love Letter from AEG Games.
So I think that about wraps up what we've been playing lately. We've had a couple episodes now where the games that we've been playing lately that we've discussed have all been Halloween or horror themed games. Now we're going to jump into our top 5 games. We're still sticking with the Halloween theme. We want to talk about the top 5 games to play on Halloween. Kevin, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I sure would. All right. My number 5, I debated on whether to put this on my list or not. It is a game I've only played one time, and I could see this game actually becoming number 1 or 2 on my list with repeated plays. I had so much fun the first time I played it. There's a few things that have kept me from playing it repeated times, but this game is Arkham Horror LCG. It's designed by Nate French and MJ Newman and published by Fantasy Flight Games. Arkham Horror LCG is a campaign game set in the world built by H.P. Lovecraft. You and up to 3 friends are characters within the quiet New England town of Arkham. And during the game, you'll encounter cultists and haunted houses and monsters and signs of the Ancient One. I played this solo, the first solo scenario, and I still remember the things I encountered in that scenario. It is so thematic. You have weaknesses in your deck. You have powers in your deck. You're encountering all kinds of crazy things. I read through the scenario, the second scenario. It's completely different from the first scenario. So it has all kinds of variability. It's a campaign game, and there's things that carry on from game to game. I'm excited to find out what those are. It's got 1 million expansions. It's a Fantasy Flight game, so they're going to milk it for all it's worth, right? They recently came out with a new second edition version. That's when I thought, might as well jump in now. It's a perfect time to do it. So I did, and I'm glad I did. So that is Arkham Horror, the LCG. I know, Tyson, you've played this one a little bit.
I have played this one, and I love this game. I think same things as you're saying. It is very evocative, and it brings out that Lovecraftian theme so well. The art is, and what you see on those cards,
yeah, it's really good.
And the story as it progresses, what you're doing, it really just kind of envelops you. And yeah, I can still vividly remember what I'm doing. And what I love about this is that the scenarios are different. It's not like there are different mechanisms in play and there are different things, so it feels different. The first scenario, you're in a single location, right? You're just exploring this house and trying to make sure that you're doing all the things you need to in this house. Well, the next scenario, you're going into the town, and you're going to multiple different locations and exploring, and you have to go between these places, and you can't visit everything and do everything. There's a lot to love in this game, and I think it is a great one to have on this list of games to play on Halloween.
Yep, so that's my number 5, Arkham Horror LCG.
So my number 5 is a game that is put out by Facade Games. It's called Salem 1692. Now, Facade Games, what they do is they publish games that have a historical location that has some sort of terrible event or bad things that happen in it. So Salem 1692, as you may guess, is the Salem witch trials. It's where this occurs. And what I really like about this game, especially from a thematic standpoint, is that you're playing this game as one of the person who lives in Salem during the witch trials. So you could be potentially a witch.
Get back, witch! I'm not a witch, I'm your wife!
You could be potentially one of the Puritans who are there trying to like burn them at the stake and whatever else. But essentially what the game is it's a social deduction game in which there is an opportunity for you to become a witch. You have a series of cards in front of you. All of these cards, you have, I think, 5 in front of you. And one of them could be a witch. One of them could be a townsperson, etc. Think of like mafia or werewolf, but this adds an element that the witch can switch, and you can kind of convert people to become more witches, but you don't know if you're a witch necessarily at certain times, and it adds this really intriguing experience. I would play this game over werewolf or mafia, those styles games, because I think it adds a little bit more opportunities for people who are uncomfortable with lying to be able to get out of stuff and be able to work in this environment without having to feel like they have to lie. But even those who like to lie, that opportunity is there. There's this card play mechanic where you're trying to play, and once you get to a certain card in the deck, it becomes nighttime. So you don't know exactly when nighttime is going to occur or not, and like those other games, nighttime is where people end up dying or rolls switch out and things like that. I like this one a lot. I think this is a game that if you like social deduction, or even if you don't, this is a good one. And it's one that you can introduce to a lot of newer players. I've played this with my in-laws who have no exposure to games whatsoever, and they've really enjoyed this. I didn't mention it plays up to 4 to 12 players. So it's a high player count game, and it's a good one. If you have like a Halloween party or experience, you can have a lot of people participate in this one. I like it.
So interesting fact. I have a lot of ancestors who are from the Salem witch trials. My Mary Town, I think Easterly, is like my 10th great grandmother.
Oh, wow.
And I've got like great aunts and great uncles and John Proctor's on my ancestry.
Yeah, and they're all characters in this game that you can play as, which is really cool.
That's kind of funny. I'm not into witchcraft for the record, but I just thought that
thanks for
thought that
clarifying.
was interesting. I had discovered that before, and so when you were talking about the game, it made me think of that. All right, so my number 5, and I kind of created my list of like what 5 games, if I had a full day on Halloween to play games, what 5 games would I want to play? Number 5, Welcome to Halloween Thematic Neighborhood. So this is an expansion or from Welcome to, which is a flip and write game. Basically, in Welcome to, if you haven't played it or haven't seen it, you have 3 streets and you're flipping over cards that create a action set combination, which is a number card and an action card that you can do. So everybody picks one of those sets and then fills in a number somewhere on one of their 3 streets, does the corresponding action that they picked with that number and that action set, and you're trying to create the best 1950s neighborhood. There's some rules with your houses have to go ascend in number on a street, and you're basically just trying to score the most points that you can over the course of the game. There are 3 bonus goals that you're going for that will also could potentially trigger the end of the game. So in Welcome to Halloween, as with all of the Welcome to expansions, there's slight variations. I really like the paper art that is, it's a flip and write, so you're tearing away paper sheets off of this
pad of
papers, right? There is some pencil writing.
Ooh, that's a...
You
like it?
Well, so I laminate these and then I can use a marker at least. So anyway, there are the Halloween themed one. There are houses that when you fill them in, they have a ghost or a candy corn icon, and you can select between the ghost or the candy corn. There's some push your luck element here because you can cash in on the number of candy corns that you get or the number of ghosts. However, when somebody cashes in the higher count for the better values, rewards, I believe candy corns is victory points. The ghost lets you do some free actions. If you're going for the higher numbered candy corn, somebody else takes that, then you are relegated to the lower value one, whereas you could have been going for ghosts at the same time. The scoring cards that are introduced with this expansion are also related to candy corns and ghosts. And I just, it's a nice little twist. I love this game. Welcome to is a great game. I'm going to get Welcome to the Moon is shipping soon.
Oh, you ordered that one?
I did. I
love that version.
I'm excited to play through all of those. I really enjoy Welcome to. This is a lighthearted, fun Halloween game that anybody can play, that you can start off your day.
That's a good choice. I hadn't considered that one. I like that.
I like it. Welcome to is great. So my number 4 is Zombie Dice. So this is designed by Steve Jackson and published by Steve Jackson Games. It plays from 2 to 99 players.
Oh, man.
I don't think I'd want to play with 99 players, but that's what it says. So Zombie Dice is a super simple game. I have played this game. I haven't looked at my app recently, but it's over 100 times. It's you are a zombie and you're trying to eat delicious brains. So there are 13 custom dice in 3 different colors. There's green, there is yellow, and there's red. So There's different combinations of brains and feet and shotguns on each of these dice. So what you're trying not to do as the zombie is get shotgunned 3 times, because if you get shotgunned 3 times, you are out for that round until it comes around to your turn again. But you're trying to eat those delicious brains, right? So you have a cup. You have these 13 dice in the cup. You shake it up. You take out 3 dice, and then you roll them. Any shotguns get set aside. If you get 3 of those, like I said, you're out for the round. Any brains get set aside, and then any feet there represent those pesky humans running away, and you have to re-roll any feet. So you take the feet, and then you take a number of dice from the cup back up to 3. And then you have a choice, either stop and eat your delicious brains, record your score, or keep on going and press your luck and roll again. You do that as long as you want until you either die or stop. And whoever gets to 13 brains first wins. Now, we have some expansions that make the game even better from the base game. We've got the school bus. So at any time you can jump on the school bus and you have all these captive kids in there. I guess you can eat the brains. But there's danger on the bus as well. You can get like double shotguns. You can get triple brains, which is great. And there's these little tokens that you use to track the brains and the shotguns from the bus. You can get run over by the bus. And if you get run over by the bus, you drop one of your brains and put it back in the cup, which is kind of funny and it's kind of thematic, right?
So that's a chunky yellow dice.
Yeah, it's a beefy die. And I don't know
like
how.
a D12?
I think it's like a D12. Yeah. It's a big die. There's also an expansion called the Hunk and the Hottie. The Hunk has 2 brains, and it says in the rules, not because he's smart. It's just because his brains are more delicious or something. I don't know. The Hottie has, her feet print are like stilettos or something. It's kind of funny. And they have.
I haven't played that one.
They have different rules. They can rescue each other. So if one of them has been captured and there's a brain, the other one can rescue them. So that's kind of fun. There's Santa.
I played the Santa one.
Yeah, the Santa
double feature.
Then double feature Santa, and then there's another die. Like I can't remember what the other die is at the top of my head. But there's expansions you could throw in. The rules are really easy, but they add some fun, little bit more strategic depth to the game. Super light, super fun, and who doesn't like being a zombie eating brains, right?
I've played the base game of this, and I've played this with my kids. And I find it to be a good lesson for them in risk reward.
Yeah.
Like it's push your luck. That's all this game is. It's straight push your luck, and that's fun. But the theme on it is something that they can be invested in and think it's silly and fun. And
that zombie's pretty creepy on the dice cup.
Yes,
it actually scared my kids when they were younger. Yeah.
I really like this game. We play this a lot of times when it's been a long day or whatever, and maybe we haven't had a lot of family time and it's too late to play a regular game, but we can play this in 5-10 minutes, and we'll play this 3 or 4 times as a family before we go to bed. And I think one time Shelly and Logan played this for like 2 hours straight in an airport terminal while they were waiting for a flight. Like it's a great travel game too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's a lot of fun. I like this game.
Yeah. So that is my number 4, zombie dice.
So my number 4, similar to Kevin's being an apocalyptic game, my number 4 is an apocalyptic game called Eschaton. This is a game designed by Diha, that's just one name in the credits, and Petras Vasnelis, Adam Watts, and designed by, published by Arkham Games. For a long time, I think this was their only game that they have, but this is kind of like, this is a cult following kind of a game that there's a lot of backing behind this. This is basically almost all they do. This is the game in which I purchased.
I was waiting
way too much. Put too much money in on the card sleeves for.
I had to take out a loan at Origins to
I
be
know.
able to afford those sleeves.
But they are some pretty nice sleeves.
They are. They're nice.
I mean, are they worth the price?
No comment.
But they are nice.
They're nice. They're very nice. So the game plays 2 to 6 players, and what it is this is a deck building game in which players are seeking to lead the most favored cult in the final days before Armageddon. So as the world's crumbling, the Dark One is trying to choose somebody to favor for the unholy mass. It says
This one's a little dark.
It is very dark. It is horror, but you are vying for the favor of the Dark One by bringing about Armageddon. That's essentially what it is. As a deck builder, what you're trying to do is recruit followers and increase your cult size so that you can get more points, basically, by having them. Each of these new followers are represented by cards, have different abilities, and can do different things. It is similar in some ways to like Dominion deck building kind of things, where you start with everybody has the same basic deck and have to figure out how to play with that deck. And then they're recruiting. All the cards are available to them from the start. You can see what the market is and can purchase and recruit these different things. But each card has different symbols on them that can be used for different purposes. And you are choosing how to spend these symbols. And some of them allow you to physically, you have cultists on a map. They allow you to expand your territory and growth and bringing about Armageddon. And there are cards in an event deck that'll come out that essentially will signify when Armageddon is coming. And the closer you get, the more everybody has to react to these different events going on. There is a lot going on. I think this has it's got a good horror vibe to it. If you like Dominion, I think this takes Dominion, a lot of what Dominion does well, and adds this new theme to it, but puts a physical board as well around that has some area control. So I really like this one. And I think it has a lot of potential for those who also like deck building.
Nice. I like multi-use cards in games. That's pretty cool. Like I've talked about before, I like Dominion a lot. So I'm excited to try this one. And the fancy card sleeves.
Yeah, I am excited to get my hands on those. I've started looking at this game a little bit, and I've seen some comparisons to Tyrants of the Underdark a little bit. So I'm excited to maybe get to the table.
Yeah, I haven't played Tyrants of the Underdark, but if they're similar, then and everything you've said about Tyrants, Tyler, is something that like I've always been excited by the prospect of playing that one. So I like this one. This one's Eschaton, published by Arkham Games. My number 4.
So my number 4 is a classic. It goes all the way back to 2004, Betrayal at House on the Hill. And designer Bruce Glasgow and published by Avalon Hill. In this game, you and your compadres are going into a house, and you are playing tiles, and you're discovering new rooms, and you're building out the house. And at a certain point in the game, you're also trying to collect items and boost your character's abilities. You each have different characters. You're trying to explore this house and expand it. But at a certain point, a haunt is triggered. One of you is going to become the traitor, and you have a separate rule book that you'll then look up the haunt that was triggered by the location and how it was triggered. The other players have a different book where they look up the haunt rules for how to defeat the traitor. The traitor doesn't know everything about the other players, and the other players don't know everything about the traitor's goals and conditions for winning. But there are tons of different haunts in this haunt book that come with the game. It creates some very interesting moments. Some of the haunts are better than others, but you got mummies, you got spiders, you got spirits, all kinds of different haunts. It's a fun game. I really enjoy it, and it deserves to be on this list for games to play on Halloween. We played through Betrayal Legacy. I've also played the Baldur's Gate, or the D&D version of this. I really enjoyed that one. Legacy was a little rough, but this is a classic, Betrayal at House on the Hill. It's definitely worth playing on Halloween.
I would agree. For years, my wife and I would play this one on Halloween. We would invite people over, carve pumpkins, play this game, and do stuff like that. I ended up trading this one away, as well as a copy of Dominion that I had for $1 to get Lisboa, which I thought was a pretty decent trade.
Somebody really didn't like Lisboa.
Yeah, somebody really didn't like Lisboa, and I was like, that's fine. I'll give you these 2 games. The last couple of weeks, we've gone to Target on Saturdays to like grocery shop or look at the Halloween decorations or whatever. And I've noticed that every time we stop in the toy aisle and the board game aisles, and she picks up Betrayal and looks at it and has almost purchased it. I've encouraged her to purchase it because they've got this new version that recently was released with far better components, and I'd be interested in having that copy.
If your wife's ever interested in buying a game, you buy that game. Yeah. That's just how you do it. Yeah.
I remember one play of this that was funny to me. I got trapped in the basement somehow, and I was not the trader, and I spent an hour and a half trying to get out of the basement.
Oh my gosh.
And that was both funny and frustrating. I eventually got out and then killed the trader character, which it worked out in the end, but it was funny. No matter what I tried, I could not get out of the basement. So that's my number 4, Betrayal at House on the Hill.
So my number 3 is a game we've talked about in previous podcasts, and that is Witch's Brew. This one is designed by Andreas Pelikan and published by Rio Grande Games. So we recently talked about this one, like I mentioned. I'm not going to go over how the game plays, but I will talk about a little bit about what I enjoy about the game. This is definitely a Halloween themed game. I mean, it's about witches and brewing potions. I love trying to figure out in this game what other players are doing, right? So you select a certain number of cards for each round. These cards are going to be different. Everybody's going to be selecting different cards, and you're trying to determine which cards other people are going to select. Getting in their heads of the people around the table, looking at resources that they have, looking at money that they have, and trying to determine what's the likelihood of the cards that they're going to select. Sometimes you're wrong, you're right. Sometimes you're wrong because everybody else around the table is doing the same thing, and they're trying to second guess what you're going to select. So it could be, you're overthinking it and you select the wrong cards, for example. But when you get that to work and you select the cards that work for you, it's awesome, and it's a great feeling, right? So that's Witch's Brew. We've talked about it quite a bit already. I think it's a great Halloween-themed game. It's one that I enjoy playing quite a bit. Absolutely. And I know you guys have recently played, right?
Yeah, and it was my first experience, and we talked about that in our other Halloween episode recently. And I agree for all the same reasons that I love the mind game of, clearly, I cannot choose the wine that is in front of me. Like, I can't choose the card that's in front of me that I think you're going to take because you think I'm going to take that card. So because you think I'm going to take that card, I have to choose this card. But did you think that I was going to choose that card as a result? It's this perplexing experience that I really enjoy.
So that's a good one. Don't need to talk about it too much since we already did. But that is Witch's Brew, my number 3.
My number 3 is a game that we've already talked about, and so I'm not going to belabor it, but it's Arkham Horror, the living card game. It is, as we've already talked about, a phenomenal game that I think should absolutely be on this list to play during Halloween. That's number 3, Arkham Horror, the living card game.
My number 3 is Silver by Bezier Games, and I loved when this game came out. The theme is loosely on there. You're trying to have the fewest number of werewolves in your town. So basically, this plays like a game that I played as a kid with a deck of cards called Golf, where you were dealt a number of cards face down. Over the course of the game, you draw a card and you may be able to replace a card, or you discard it if it's not a lower valued card. If it's not a lower valued card, you're trying to score the fewest points possible. So Silver builds on that a little bit. You are dealt 5 cards. You don't know what they are. You can look at 2 of them before the game starts. and they range in value from 0 to 13. You're obviously trying to get the zeros, the ones, the twos. There are ways to remove cards, but you're drawing a card and then either discarding it and using an action that each card has, and each number's different what the action is, or you're replacing one of your 5 cards with the card that you drew. At a certain point, you can choose to flip over any number of your cards, and if they are the same, you can get rid of them. If they're different, then you get stuck with them and you take on more cards. I really like this game. I talked to the folks at Bezier Games at Origins, and it did sound like the other 4 decks that I have seen a picture of at one point a long time ago will eventually see the light of day. For now, there are currently 4 decks. It's Bullet, Dagger, Coin, and Amulet. The thing I really love about this game and having multiple decks is you can mix and match. So I can take the 0 from Bullet, and I can take the 1 from Amulet, and all the way on up. In fact, there's 4 rounds in the game, and if you have all 4 of the decks, you can create 4 custom decks and play a different deck each round, which is a lot of fun. If you're familiar with the cards. If you're not, then that's a slog. Just stick with the deck as it comes. Silver is a great game. You got werewolves, you got vampires. It's a Halloween game pasted on, but it is a lot of fun. We've had some exciting games of this that came down to the last moment. There's a lot of take that in this game. You can be nasty with some of the cards. Some of the decks are more nasty than others, but it is a great game by Ted Alspach.
And it's a great one to introduce people to as well. Like, we've played this with a lot of people at our big game nights, and this is one that's highly requested time and time again because of that. The more you get familiar with it, the more funny things can be. And it's a good experience.
And I remember we had a couple people stay a little bit later, and I mean, we played this game past midnight one night, and we were loud and laughing and yelling, and it was awesome.
We were playing with a new deck, I think. Not everybody was familiar with the cards, but just the way things worked out in that game was hilarious. People were stealing cards from each other. Nobody knew who had what. And it was just, it was
all over the place.
It was everywhere, but it was fun. It was a really fun game.
I really like this game. I'm really excited for the upcoming decks. I'm not sure when exactly they'll be released, but it did sound like they are still coming. So that is Silver.
Well, my number 2 is a game I have already talked about, and that is Horrified. Both versions of Horrified. Obviously, this is a very much a Halloween game. It's designed by Prospero Hall, published by Prospero Hall. They did a fantastic job for all the reasons I talked about earlier in the episode. So if you want to hear what my thoughts, rewind about an hour, and that's Horrified. That's my number 2, Horrified.
My number 2 is a game that we've recently talked about. In fact, we did a feature review on this one in episode 22. That game is Cthulhu Death May Die. I'm not going to go into depth on this given the fact that we've done a feature review on it. If you want to hear our thoughts on that, go there and listen to that in episode 22. I will say this about Cthulhu Death May Die here. It's not only one of the best Halloween games, it's one of the best games out there, especially from a cooperative standpoint, in my opinion. I think this game is fantastic to play all times of the year, but in particular during the Halloween season.
Ditto.
Yeah, agreed. Amazing game.
So my number 2 is Nemesis, or Alien. You wake up in a spaceship and it's semi-cooperative. You have hidden tasks that will allow you to win the game, and that may involve getting safely to your destination, or it may be ensuring that player number 3
does not get to their destination.
Does not, that it is killed off, right? So you're waking up, you're exploring the ship. You have to get the engines, make sure the engines are functioning and turned on. You have to make sure that the ship is going to the location that you need it to go to for you to win. Nobody knows what your objectives are, but they become clear when you're in a room and somebody throws a Molotov cocktail in and finishes you off after you just helped them defeat an alien.
I mean, hypothetically, right?
Hypothetically, yes.
Right.
This is, yeah.
I needed to kill somebody,
Yeah.
and you were close, and I'm like, why not kill Tyler?
Yeah.
It worked out great.
He let so they're called intruders, but they're really aliens. They start roaming the ship. There's alien eggs. There's different various levels of maturity of aliens roaming the ship. There's different rooms that have different functions. You can shut off the air in parts of the ship. You can turn on the engines. There's weapons that you can pick up. You're trying not to make noise as you move from room to room. Otherwise, you attract the intruders. This is a really fun game. I would love to get back to this game. It's been a while since we had this on the table. You have the deck of cards that you have available to play are asymmetric. You each have different characters, all kinds of different cinematic endings that could happen, and it's a lot of fun. That is my number 2, Nemesis, by Awaken Realms and designed by Adam Kwapinski.
So my number 1 is, shocker, going to be Cthulhu Death May Die. So for all the reasons Tyson mentioned, I will not explain how this game works. Go listen to our last episode for our thoughts, but it is an amazing game, an amazing experience, very cinematic, very Halloween themed, and is very deserving, I think, of the number 1 spot on my list, Cthulhu Death May Die.
So my number 1 spot would have been Cthulhu Death May Die if this game didn't exist. But mine is Final Girl. I've talked a little bit about this in previous episodes, but Final Girl essentially is a solo-only game, but has the best experience I've had in a game that creates cinematic moments. I think Cthulhu Death May Die creates those cinematic moments. Tyler just talked about Nemesis. I think that does a great job of creating those cinematic moments. But more consistently than any other game I've played, Final Girl creates these moments that are very horror tropey. So you are taking on the role of a final girl, a girl in the world of something like Freddy Krueger or Jason or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Poltergeist, all of these stereotypical trope that are horror films, and it puts you in that role, and you get to go be the final girl and try as well as you can to stop the bad guy from murdering all your friends, your family, everybody else, and it creates very amazing experiences even when you utterly fail. I've talked about the very first time I played, I immediately went to go and save people, and first thing I did was trip over my feet.
It's like when Legolas was trying to jump into the bush to hide exactly. When we played Journeys in Middle Earth.
Right.
And because I tripped over my feet in this situation, the axe murderer goes to the campfire and hacks everybody up, and it was like perfect. And this game has consistently delivered moments like that for me. For me, it's one of the most played games I've played this year, and it's one that I think has such a fantastic Halloween type of vibe to it, which is why it's taken my number 1 slot. It's Final Girl.
So Shelley said that this is obviously the number 1 game that should be played on Halloween. I haven't played it, so I left it off my list, but Logan and her took turns playing it. So even though it's a solo game, they both enjoyed sitting there at the table while she played it. He would watch and talk and, suggest things and vice versa. But Shelley went all in on the latest Kickstarter. So at some point we're going to have season 1 and 2 and all of its content in our house, and I'll get a chance to play it. But yeah, she was like, that's the obvious answer for this top 5 list for number 1. And she loves Cthulhu.
Even more than Cthulhu.
She loves
Death May
Cthulhu, Death May Die, and yes, but she also loves these tropey horror movies and
Slasher films.
I mean, like her dad's been here weeks at a time in October, and they do like horror movie night every night. Her and I watch them sometimes, but not as frequently as when her dad's here. So yeah, it's totally final girl for her. That's what she would have picked. My number 1 is also Cthulhu Death May Die. For all the reasons that we talked about in episode 22, all that mythos that H.P. Lovecraft created. And yeah, it's just an incredible game. So that's my number 1, Cthulhu Death May Die.
So that wraps up our top 5 games that should be played on Halloween. There are a lot there. I had a number of other ones that just didn't make this list. I have like a list of honorable mentions. There were some that I was switching in and out.
You switched one right before your number 5.
did.
You had Dark Moon.
I had Dark Moon on there, and I
Salem.
switched it to Salem. There's a number of other ones. Basically, everything that you guys mentioned on your lists were things that I had thought about too. I think this genre is rife with a lot of different potential out there. So if you like horror, there's a lot of board games out there for you. And I think there's a lot of great ones out there. So moving past our Halloween games to play, let's talk about other things and games that we're excited about now, or things rather that we're excited about. Tyler, why don't you start us on something that's exciting you?
So something that's exciting me, there's 2 things, and neither one of them are related to board gaming, but that's okay because I can say what I want to say.
It's our podcast. We can do what we want.
Right. All right. So the first thing is this episode is going to air a few days before Halloween. On November 1st, I am officially allowed to turn on Christmas music in
You
my
have
house.
been listening to it already, though.
Yeah.
Oh, sparingly at work. I played some the other day when I had a coworker in my office. I was just like, booyah. I got a cotton-headed Ninny Muggins elf shirt the other day.
Nice. Love it.
From one of my kids. So I wore that to work yesterday. It's never too early to spread Christmas cheer. So I'm excited to get my Christmas music playlist on Spotify blaring in this house on November 1st. The second thing that I am excited about, which is also adjacent to Christmas, is on December 2nd, there is a movie coming out called Violent Night, starring David Harbour, Chief Hopper from Stranger Things, as Santa Claus in a John McClane-esque potential role. There's a trailer out. I cannot wait to watch this. It's got some adult violence in it, it looks like. Don't watch the trailer. It gives away too much of the movie, but I'm excited for potentially new Christmas music from this movie. I'm excited for the next best Christmas movie since Krampus to come out. I cannot wait for this. So December 2nd, I will be at the theater watching this movie.
I ended
Violent
up
Night.
showing this to some coworkers, the trailer, because we had gotten on some sort of Christmas topic. No, it was the podcast. We were talking about the podcast actually, and I mentioned that you were excited about this and you liked Christmas music and stuff, and so I showed them the trailer, and about 5 people were like, "Oh, I'm going to go see that." So they were very excited. I think that I will see it. I don't know that I'm going to theaters to see this, but
I'm going to wait till it comes out.
I will watch this.
No way.
Out of theaters.
So when I mentioned my friend Aaron, who was He-Man earlier.
Mm-hmm. His crotch was burning.
Yeah. And the Swedish chef
Chef.
put it out for him.
Put it out, everybody.
Yeah. So we went and saw Krampus in the theater on a dark and stormy night, and it was amazing. And then we came out to his truck, and it had been snowing the whole time. The roads hadn't been plowed yet. It was like totally thematic with the movie. It was awesome.
Were there creepy snowmen? That would have been even better.
It would have had his truck been surrounded by them. Yeah, that would have been awesome. No, but like I cannot wait to see this. So years go by between good Christmas movies. It's also not a movie that I'm gonna uphold to my high film viewing standards of reality and expectations of story and characters and plot.
You're not going to be
so
as
you're just
critical
gonna watch it to enjoy it? That's a novel thing
but it's
for
not
movies.
I watch
the lore of Christmas. Come on, how dare you? It betrays.
No.
No, you got to look at this with your critic hat on.
You watch it for what it is, right? Lord of the Rings.
That's what I watch all my movies.
Yeah, but that's the problem because like Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, it's supposed to be epic and amazing, and the story is supposed to be amazing, and it's not, and it's terrible, and it's all of not those things. So yeah,
I can still watch it and be entertained though. I'm hoping I hope it's a good Christmas show. With a lot of death and slashing.
Yeah. Violent Night is right.
Yeah.
Cool.
And David Harbour's
I like David Harbour. He's awesome.
He's yet to fail me. Like everything I've seen him in, I've enjoyed him in.
He was good in Black Widow. I mean, that was cool. I liked him.
I didn't see what's the
Hellboy.
Hellboy. I didn't see Hellboy.
Oh, that didn't get great reviews.
No.
I liked the original Hellboy. That was good. All right, so one thing I'm excited about, I think this goes back to last episode where you said you were kind of excited, maybe sort of, about the Teo Deluxe Edition.
Yeah.
It's Wonderland's War. So just recently, as of recording this episode, they announced a new Kickstarter for Wonderland's War, and there is an expansion they're coming out with, and they're re-releasing the original Kickstarted version. It looks amazing. I've always loved the look of this game. I remember looking at the original Kickstarter and kind of going back and forth on if I wanted to back it or not. It's got amazing, components and bits, and you can spend up to $180, I think, if you want to go all in on the Kickstarter. I might do that. I know Ben has it in our group, and I want to play his copy. I think he loves it.
He does.
So I want to get it played and potentially back it. So I'm excited to play that and possibly back the Kickstarter.
I've heard really good things from different sources about this one, and that somebody, and I don't know if this is true or they just have no idea what they're talking about. Somebody said it was like a blood rage killer.
Oh, really? A blood rage killer?
Doesn't make sense to me.
It's like a bag builder.
But yeah, like I don't know why that is. Like, and maybe I misunderstood what the context was, and it was a different situation. But it is.
That's a glowing endorsement if it's true.
Yeah, or somebody is just very delusional, but I don't know. I
think so. Yeah.
I like the idea of this one, and so I'm all for playing Ben's copy and you backing it so that I can play it.
Yeah.
I will say we recorded this a little early. When this episode airs, it is the final day of this Kickstarter campaign. Yeah. So we had to record a little early. Kevin's going out of town, as he mentioned. So yeah, if you are
jump on it quick, listen to the episode to the end and back this one right away.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I feel the same way as you. I want to play Ben's copy and figure out if this is a game that I want in my collection or not.
Yeah, I love the art style of it. It just looks great.
Well, it's Druid City Games, I believe, that has put this one out.
Yep.
And their production value on all their games have been really high, I think, and they do a great job.
Yep. So that's what I'm excited about.
So what I'm excited about is something that I've been excited about since episode 1. It was the thing that I was excited about then, but now we have a Kickstarter launch date. On November 8th, Unconscious Mind is going to Kickstarter. This is a game that has a lot going for it. For me, at least, you've got both Vincent Dutrait and Andrew Bosley art on this game. You've got Johnny Pack as one of the designers who did Coloma, Merchant's Cove, etc. And I've liked his stuff. This is a game that, for me, I have a background in mental health and psychology. So the idea is that this is taking place in Freud's study, essentially, and you are in Vienna in the 1900s. You're going about, and there's worker placement. You're trying to help fix people in Vienna during that time, and as you're doing that, from what I understand, when you help repair or like help somebody improve their mental health, they end up going back to work in Vienna, and that increases the productivity of Vienna, allowing you to do different stuff within in the city itself. There's a lot here that I don't know about, but as of Essen, I saw a bunch of pictures being released for this, and it looks gorgeous. It's something that, like, the components, like, they have like these little glass vial tokens
with corks
in them. They have cool. Like all this really cool picture and artwork that is like very like Freudian and like almost like this abstract kind of thought stuff. It reminds me of Dixit or Canvas or those types of games, Mysterium in some ways. There's just a lot of stuff here that I think it has going for it that I'm really excited about. It's going to be hard because
you've got an expensive 2 months.
November, you've got like Cthulhu Death May Die. You've got the Heroes of Might and Magic 3 that I talked about last episode, and Unconscious Mind. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get all of them, and so I may have to be making some hard decisions. This is where you see in the grocery aisle when hard decisions are made, somebody leaves diapers in the chocolate aisle or something like that.
Okay.
You know a hard decision has been made when somebody is leaving their diapers on the chocolate shelf, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. They've chosen chocolate, basically.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's late. We got you.
We got you. Yeah, I mean, I think you just buy it all. Personally. But
Right.
Yeah, just do it.
Just take out a small
Christmas is coming up. The
Yeah.
holidays are around the corner.
Yeah, for sure.
Splurge.
Your kids don't need gifts.
No, but I'm really excited about this one. This is
cool.
One that I think for sure I'll be backing this one, probably over any of the other ones if I have to make a choice. But yeah, that's Unconscious Mind. So I think that wraps up everything for this episode. For those of you that are going to be celebrating the Halloween season, hopefully you've got some ideas of spooky games that you can play. Tell us what you want to play during the Halloween season.
And if you were looking for costume ideas, check out The Swedish Chef.
And He-Man.
It was a great combo.
And if you ask really nicely, maybe Kevin will show you pictures of his Ubongo.
Oh, yeah. I got to dig that out. I don't know where that ended up, but yeah.
But yeah.
That's a good one. I gotta get that back out.
Cool. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you want more Longest Turn in your life, please check us out on Instagram. Also, be sure to check us out on Board Game Geek, where you can join our guild, Guild 3947, and check out our blog, where we post all our show notes and occasionally post more detailed reviews. If that's not enough for you, we have a Discord server. If you want to play a game with us on Board Game Arena, join our Board Game Arena group, The Longest Turn. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Tot ziens.
Goodbye.
See you later.
In this episode, we're going to talk about some of the Halloween games. Nope. Yep. And then we're going to talk about our top 5. Why are you guys laughing?
I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a yep. As a matter of fact.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
So for those of you that haven't played, the way this works, oh my gosh, yeah. It's real, hey guys. Okay.
Excuse me.
Finger time.
I needed to get your attention.
The thing I really love about this game is you can mix.
So that wraps up what that list. Let's move into what we've.
I lost track of where you're going with that.
Yep.
Okay. Go. You go.
All right. So
Is there a
No transition, just go right into it.
well, that about wraps up this episode. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Uh-huh.